Hello, my name's Jeremy. I'm from the USA, and I'm here in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, France, bordering Spain. And I'm at the beginning of the Camino de Santiago. It's a 500-mile walk from here to Santiago de Compostela. It's a walk that's been around for centuries, and I'm looking to do about 15 miles a day over about the next 40 days. The reason I'm doing it is I'm going to deliver my brother's ashes at the end of the walk. He was in an accident several years ago. And so here I go, about to begin. The first stage I'll do is over the Pyrenees Mountains. It's going to be about a 1,300 meter incline, or 3,000 foot incline, and it'll be about a 13 to 15 mile walk today. Okay, so I made it out of Saint-Jean. I'm about halfway to my next destination, and this morning it was like walking in a dream with the fog. Very, very pretty views, and some sweeping mountain views on the way up. Is something else. Well, I guess at this part I want to introduce my brother and who he was, and actually, funny enough, his obituary is a good summary, so I'll go ahead and read that now. James Timothy Frick. It's hard to read. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this over. And this is it. James Timothy Frick. Age 31, passed into the arms of God on Friday, August 9th, 2013, after a zipline accident near Santa Fe. Born on July 27th, 1982, Jimmy was a lifelong resident of Albuquerque. He was the third of 4 children of Kevin and Susie Frick. In his present employment, he was a promotions editor for KRQE Albuquerque, but the depth of his being and the talents he possessed were manifested in so many other ways. Jimmy was the definition of an artist. He lived his day-to-day existence pouring out his creativity. If there is anything at all to learn from him, it is this: do not settle, be authentic, give your gift to the world, whatever that may be. He lived out his very last moments, embracing the beauty he so profoundly poured out into the world around him. Jimmy's heart, soul, and character will ever live on in all who had the pleasure to know him. He leaves his dear girlfriend and future wife, Julia Fitzhugh. The two of them exemplified an amazing love and kindred spirit. His surviving family include parents, Kevin and Susie Frick, sister, Elizabeth Dowd, and husband, Tim. Since that time, they had a daughter named Scarlett. Brothers Jeremy Frick, that's me, and Joshua Frick, and wife Erin, and his two young daughters, Natalie and Olivia, make that three. Hannah was born since that time. Good job, Josh. Also grieving are his grandma Frick, numerous aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. Jimmy gave his life to Jesus at a young age and lived a life with a spiritual foundation. Now we celebrate that life in the midst of our profound sorrow. It's been almost 5 years now, and really glad I could come out here and do this and deliver his ashes. Being surrounded by this beauty out here is this has been a great first day so far, and I just can't get over the mountains, the air, the rolling green hills. So onward I go. I have Okay, so I made it here into Pamplona. It is day 3, and I made it into Cafe Aruña. This is a place where one of my favorite authors, Hemingway, used to hang out, and I'm pretty happy that I could make it to this cafe and have a coffee. Part of what I want to say about Pamplona or Hemingway, for me, coming out here to the Camino, The Old Man and the Sea, one of his famous books, served as an inspiration for me in coming out here. As a spoiler, that book, there's an old man, and he's facing a defeat after. So this is the part where I want to interrupt the video and read a letter I wrote back home, as I find it more applicable to my Camino experience that night in Pamplona. I go on and I summarize the entire book of The Old Man and the Sea, which I'll spare everyone of now as I say what it means to me later. What I said in the letter is, after looking in the rain, we found, to my disappointment, the cafe was closed as is common in Spain on a Monday, and we were leaving to walk the next day. I was really bummed out since the old man in the book was inspirational to my journey out here. The front door of Cafe Aruña was locked, so in my broken Spanish, I asked an adjacent shop owner if there's any chance at all I could see the statue. He told me to ask the next cafe over and told me it's a maybe if you get in. To my amazement, they sold us tickets for a couple euro, which is a few dollars, and it included a coffee. I was laughing my head off. We entered from the side door. The cafe was completely empty with no one around except Seichi, my best Camino friend, and I, alone there in this old wood-paneled classy cafe Hemingway used to hang out in. In my enthusiasm, I set down the tripod. Seichi went upstairs and quietly drank his coffee while I went on to film this video. That night after filming, I was ecstatic as I walked the stone streets of Pamplona, and it was raining. In Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms, he uses rain as a symbol for tragedy. But that night, when I walked there in the rain, not believing my luck, after seeing Hemingway's statue alone in the cafe, and being there on the Camino, able to do this and deliver my brother's ashes, tragedy did not seem to be the case. So that was my night, and the reason I was over-enthused to summarize the whole book of The Old Man in the Sea. Back to the video. And at the end of the book, the old man falls asleep dreaming of lions. So some of my favorite things here, coffee and get to hang out with Hemingway. Not a bad day at all after being outdoors. I left Pamplona this morning along Puente a la Reina, and last night in Pamplona, after seeing the Hemingway statue, I was walking the streets and came across a store for a stick. So I like the way it looks, so I bought this last night. And one thing I've really enjoyed along the way is the opportunity to walk alone, and as well as to and as you can see, and enjoy walking with other people as well from all over the world. And being here at this monument is it's a great connection with the past of people who have walked this as well. So there's definitely a sense of connection that you get in the Camino. So onward from here. Today is another 13-mile walk, approximately. It's very nice out with the overcast and the birds this morning. It's refreshing to have the cool air. Yesterday, during my walk. For the first day in the Camino, I started to walk slower. In the previous days, I had been walking fast to get a bed at night. So along the Camino, you stay at hostels called albergues, and it's a communal place with bunk beds and kitchens. Sometimes it includes food, sometimes it doesn't, and thereby space available. Some people do reservation, other people don't. On my first night on the Camino, I almost did not get a bed since I was out taking pictures and shooting video. I came in later than everyone else. So since then, as a result, I had been walking fast and hoping to get a bed every night, which I was able to do, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I was really enjoying the views and slowing down. So that was a good lesson yesterday, to have some time to myself, slow down, and enjoy the views. So yesterday, when I returned, when I made it to Estella, I went out to the old city center. I wanted to see some old stone buildings and the stone churches in the city center, and also to get dinner. I went out looking for one of my friends I've been walking with, and I didn't see him around, but I came across a man from Arizona in the United States, a retiree. And it's one of the things about the Camino, you could always meet new people. And we sat down and had dinner and had a really good conversation. As we started talking, I learned that he lost his wife 6 years ago, suddenly. So we were able to, as complete strangers, come together, have a meal, enjoy a cold beer together after a long day of walking, sit next to a river on a patio, and just talk about what matters to us. So it's been going well, and I'm enjoying this overcast. A few days ago we had a really hot, blistering sun, so this is a welcome refreshment. Along the way here on to Los Arcos, they have a wine fountain. So I, in my hydration pack that I have on my bag, I added some wine to my water for a little extra taste this morning. This morning I left Logroño. It's a bigger city, one of the bigger cities along the Camino, and it's been sprinkling a bit this morning, raining harder earlier, so I dropped by this cafe and got a coffee to warm up and let the rain pass. The last few days when I've been walking, yesterday I did 17 miles, the day before I did 13 miles. My bag started to feel pretty heavy, and I realized while staying at the albergue that I've been able to wash my clothes every night. So yesterday in Logroño, I went to the post office and sent some items to Santiago. Most of those items were a third pair of everything, and from what I've learned, I could get by on 2 pairs of clothes to save some weight. It makes a difference when your back's cramping to have a little less weight. Last night I didn't sleep too well in the albergue. There were a lot of people and there was snoring. So this morning, about 2 miles into the walk, I stopped in a park and fell asleep under a pine tree. A nice Spanish man woke me up and told me it was about to rain, and sure enough, by the time I got my bag on and my poncho, it started to really come down and pour. And the rain's starting to come down a little bit more, so might be walking in the poncho today. Last night I stopped in a small town, Ventosa. Since everyone has the same guidebook as me, I decided to stay in one of the smaller towns that wasn't a recommended distance for that day. So I walked less, stayed in a smaller town, and I walked slower. I slept underneath a shade tree to catch up on some of my sleep. And I really felt rested at the end of yesterday. One of the ideas that I've been thinking about along the walk is Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea again. And I like the idea of the old man setting a vision to catch a big fish and to go out to sea deeper and farther than he's ever been before. And the reason I like that idea is the year before Jimmy died, the last song he recorded, he sang about the ocean swallowing him whole. I not only want to walk to Santiago, but I hope to make it to Finisterre, which in Latin means end of the world. It's where the end of the world meets the ocean. And that's where I hope to deliver the ashes. I have the sample right here. On the front it says JTF, James Timothy Frick, with a heart around it. And it says 1982 to 2013. On the back of it, I wrote his song lyrics, "Oceans swallow me whole." So I hope to make it, and I still have a ways to go. Last night at the albergue, I washed my clothes by hand. It's a normal thing. And it was raining a bit in the evening, so it didn't have time to dry. So I stopped for some shade in this nice hut along the way. And what I've learned from other pilgrims here to prevent blisters on the feet is very important to have dry socks. So while I was waiting in here, there was a clothesline outside where I could dry my socks. So I'll take care of my feet some, and I'm gonna slowly continue on, and I'm going to stop in another small town tonight that's different from the guidebook. So I still have about 3 or 4 more hours of walking today, but I'll take it nice and slow. So far, I've walked about 170 miles. I have 330 miles to go till Santiago, then another 40 or so to Finisterre. They say the Camino could be divided into 3 major stages. The first stage is physical, and that's where you go over the Pyrenees Mountains from Saint Jean, and it's a time for your body to adjust to the walking. I've just finished that stage. The second stage is called Meseta, and it's supposed to be a long walk without much of a view, so it becomes an emotionally trying time, and all of that is in preparation for the third stage, the spiritual, where the pilgrim is ready to receive the church in Santiago. So I could see so far on the first stage done, the physical, my body is more adjusted, and today my boots felt really light and broken in, and my pack felt lighter too. So onwards to the Meseta. I'm in San Anton tonight, and the albergue is rather unique. It's an 11th century ruins of a former monastery, and it's really something quite special. There's only 5 pilgrims here. There's no electricity, and there's no hot water. I just feel really lucky that I could stay here tonight in this sort of place, and to have these kind of views is really something else to stay here. Earlier I took a hike up the hill and saw some great views. I know this is supposed to be the Meseta, and the views aren't that great, but so far they've been pretty amazing still, and been enjoying it. Today is day number 19. I'm still in the meseta. The views are nice, but compared to the first stage, it is not as appealing. Also, it's sort of at this point I'm getting used to the routine of walking every day, so it's sort of like some of the initial excitement of the Camino has worn off. I'm still really happy to be out here, and I enjoy meeting different people all the time, and I enjoy drinking coffee at the different towns, having a beer at the end of a day after a long walk. All those things have been wonderful. It's just, I guess, with the meseta, as I've been walking along, typically alone the last few days, and it's been a little bit more difficult in the respect that there's a few issues in my life that keep coming up, and it's challenging me. So in that way, it hasn't been all fun and games, but I suppose that's the purpose of the meseta, and I'll just keep trucking along. I'm coming up. I'm between Calzada and Calzadilla, and I'm definitely thinking about that next cup of coffee. Looking forward to that. So onward I go. I'm sitting in front of the Santa Maria Cathedral in Leon, and this to me symbolically on the Camino represents something of renewal. After however long on the meseta turned into just plain and pure walking. Yesterday when I was coming upon Leon, upon the hill, I saw the city and this beautiful cathedral, and it was really refreshing to see and be back in the city. Well, I wanted to take a moment out here and talk about my brother for a second and our relationship. Back when we were in high school, I drove us to and from school in a faded red hatchback 1982 Celica that would backfire from first to second gear. And that was about the time the album The Color and the Shape by the Foo Fighters came out. My favorite song on that album was Everlong, and there's a part in that song where there's whispering, and it's like an instrumental, And Jimmy would always mock me for how seriously I took the song, and he would do like a mock whisper. So I would be driving us to school with one hand on the wheel and my other arm punching him on the way. We bonded over music. Before he died, he said that our relationship was like music. Before I came out here for a week in France, I was at a meditation retreat at a place called Plum Village. And I want to read a letter that part of a letter I wrote to my family about an experience I had there. I said, "Last night we had a small circle time where we shared our favorite part of the retreat. Although this was a relaxing and fun week, I didn't have a standout moment that came to mind. Some people shared and others like me did not. To close the session, the leading monk closed out with a song on the guitar. And that was my moment. It brought me back home, and it reminded me of why I'm here and going on the Camino." So this bald-headed monk in a brown robe sang "It's Times Like These" by the Foo Fighters. He sang quite well too, seated in a lotus position on a cushion. The lyrics to the chorus are, "It's times like these you learn to live again." It's times like these you give and give again. It's times like these you learn to love again. It's times like these, time and time again. I said that struck a chord in me, and it became my standout moment. I thanked the monk afterward and told him I saw the Foo Fighters in Denver with my sister. He said, "Oh, so cool, they are amazing." And then my walk back to my dorm that night through the forest, I was just smiling to myself at the irony of being in France and a monk singing the Foo Fighters. So the Meseta out here, to me, is symbolic for loss. And in that loss, like losing my brother, it's important to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Well, it's time to walk on.
Happy and I'm glad of all the kids our parents had. 1, 2, 3, 4 babies, one was the instigator. And number 3, that's me, followed Big Brother. Why I was punished more than you is still a big mystery. But somehow so much fun was found in small miseries. Yes, you conned me to do things bad. I was punished and you laughed. It gets harder to forget that we all grow old so quick. Hand in hand, love welcomes it as seasons change. It gets harder seasons change. And my brother, now I see the true joys in family. The laughs we shared will stay with me as seasons change. As seasons change. As seasons change. As seasons change. As seasons change.
I love you, bro.
Because such is our relationship, Jeremy. Musical.
Last few days I've been walking here in the mountains, and I have about a week or so before Santiago. Behind me is what's called the Iron Cross. Traditionally in Europe, a pilgrim would leave from their doorstep and they would carry a rock, which symbolizes a burden, and lay it here at the foot of the Iron Cross. I brought a rock from home. Before I left, my youngest brother Josh gathered my family, and Jimmy's fiancée Julia was there, and he presented this rock to the family. This rock is a piece of the larger rock that Jimmy impacted during his accident. Jimmy was in a zipline accident. A zipline is where you have 2 points connected by a cable, and you have a harness which suspends you to that cable and you fly down. The night Jimmy died, there was slack in the line, and he impacted a rock. He impacted this rock. So I want to lay down this rock as a burden for my family, for Julia, for myself. And the night of Jimmy's accident, his lifelong friends were there at the river next to this rock, and one of his friends held him in his arms while Jimmy breathed his last breath. This rock is for for them too. One thing I assumed in having a brother is that he would be there with me for the rest of my life. And I will always love and miss Jimmy. And even though I lay this burden down today, I know there'll be more iron crosses in my life. The cool thing about today is I get to lay down this burden, and then I'll be ready to receive the fullness in Santiago. And I hope there'll be many more Santiagos in my life. One thing that has carried me through this time of losing Jimmy is one of his songs. The lyrics go, "When I think I've had enough, I tie my shoes to walk again. A promise, I'd say, it got me by." The way Jimmy brought his creativity and beauty to his relationships and arts, that has been the promise that has got me by. And I'm happy I could be here. It's been my longest day so far. I've walked approximately 25 miles in total. Today was unplanned. In Villafranca, I sat down on a cliffside cafe, had some coffee. I looked in my guidebook and saw this scenic route today where I've gone over 3 mountain peaks, and I haven't seen one other pilgrim all day long. At one point I did get lost, and a mother and son in one of the small mountain villages They showed me my way back, and they also gave me a beer. I sat and talked to them for a while, and then they gave me another beer to go. Along this walk while I was alone, I've just had a great sense of gratitude for my family and friends before and during the Camino in all their support. The other day when I went to the Iron Cross, behind the scenes, my family and my friends were really encouraging me and cheering me on. So coupled with the views today, it's just been, I've just been very thankful for that I'm able to do this, and for everyone in my life. It's getting pretty late now. I think it's about 8 o'clock or so. I've been walking for 12 hours. I have one more hill to descend, and then I'll be in town and be able to rest, and hopefully just do a normal walk tomorrow, but we will see. Buen Camino. Yesterday was significant. I reached the 100-kilometer mark before Santiago, which is 60 miles away. I have 3 more days before I make it into Santiago, and the views have been really beautiful on the walk, like this morning with the birds singing. And I'm starting to feel like it's like the walk is going to be ending soon. I plan to make it to Finisterre on day 40 or so to deliver my brother's ashes, and I'm not forgetting why I'm here, but I am feeling a little nervous at this point, coming to the end and having to release the ashes. So but can't really complain with the views and the beautiful sunlight this morning. And I'll keep on walking. I'm 2 days away from Santiago, and last time I mentioned I was nervous, and the reason being I've been nervous about losing the ashes. I've been nervous about the film equipment getting lost or broken before I make it to Finisterre. Also, in the last few days, I've been walking more every day. I've been rushing to get to Santiago. Today, along the way, it was significant for me in that I saw an older Spanish man on the trail. He was just standing there facing the pilgrims as we were walking, wearing a yellow shirt, and he asked me how long I've been walking in Spanish, and I said since St. Jean, approximately 800 kilometers. And every time I tell a person in Spain how much I've walked, they shake their hand like that, so he shook his hand. I felt open enough with him to tell him that I'm delivering the earth of my brother. I didn't know how to say ashes in Spanish, to Finisterre, and then I made a throwing motion with my arm. He then asked me, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "Yes, in my heart." He then asked me, "Can you say Our Father in your language?" I did, but I only remembered up to give us this daily bread. And then he was kind enough and asked me if he could recite it for me in Spanish, and he did so with a calm and passionate feeling. I told him thank you and that our conversation was important for me. When I said that to him, he had tears in his eyes and a smile for me, and we said bye. One thing that I've been struggling with in getting to Santiago is there's more tourists along the way, but after seeing that man, I feel more at peace with a lot more people being around, and I feel after seeing that man that I'm ready to be in Santiago now, and it allowed me to just slow down and really appreciate it. So, almost there. Today is day number 36, and yesterday I arrived here, finally, in Santiago. I received my pilgrim certificate for walking 799 kilometers, approximately 500 miles from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France. Along the way, I've had a best Camino friend His name's Seichi from Japan. Since day one, I've seen him off and on in different towns, and we became best Camino friends. Last night we were able to celebrate with some delicious sangrias in a nearby bar. Yesterday I felt a bit rushed with all the things I had to do in town, finding a place, after walking, getting my certificate, going to the post office and picking up extra items I sent here. So today I stayed another day, and that allowed me to go to the Pilgrim's Mass in this beautiful cathedral. And during that Mass I received a blessing from the priest, and that's the moment here where I felt I made it. After that, they had a huge incense ball that they swung from the ceiling, and it made this really fragrant smell throughout the church, and that was another moment where it's like, yes, I made it here in Santiago. After Mass, I walked outside, and here in the plaza, a man on the harp was playing one of my favorite songs, a cover of The Sound of Silence. And again, those moments all put together just made me feel I've reached my destination. Along the way, there's been several standout moments for me. The Pyrenees with its physical challenge, the initial excitement of the Camino, and wonderful views. Pamplona, seeing Hemingway's statue, who has been an inspiration in writing The Old Man in the Sea, and me coming out here. Having the opportunity to go to the Iron Cross, deliver the rock that my brother impacted and release that burden for myself, for my family, for my friends. My longest day in the mountains alone, it was a great reflective time, and it was a wonderful physical challenge. And again, it just had breathtaking views. Almost every day here, I've been writing letters home. And not only in my Camino experience, but in writing these letters, I felt closer to everyone in my life. And that's the lesson I want to take home from the Camino, is to keep appreciating all those people that are in my life. Santiago, for most pilgrims, is not only the fullness of the destination, but it is also the transition back home. But I won't be going home yet. My brother's not home. I'll be walking to Finisterre, which means end of the world, where the end of the world meets the ocean, which my brother sang about. And there, I'm still nervous about it. I'm thankful I still have the ashes and they've made it this far. And I hope to deliver them there to honor Jimmy. A nice lady that I rented a room here from, she allowed me to leave some extra items when I go for my walk. So tomorrow when I leave, I'll have my lightest pack. I'm down to absolute minimum equipment to make the walk out to Finisterre. So a few more days to go and I'll be at the ocean. Today is day number 37, and I left Santiago this morning on the way to Finisterre. It's nice to be walking again. It feels good, and to have a pack that's lighter than ever has just been amazing. I left my boots in Santiago with that nice Spanish lady, and I'm just in my trail running shoes now. Also, while I was in Santiago, I had a chance to pick up a book that I sent to the post office there. It's called Silence in the Age of Noise, about an explorer that goes off to his own to different areas like Antarctica to live in complete silence. So I've been enjoying slowly reading that book. And one chapter I came across yesterday was a chapter on being in awe and having moments that are breathtaking. And as I reflected on my time on the Camino yesterday in Santiago, I felt I've had so many moments along the way that just have been absolutely breathtaking. And again, being back out in nature alone, walking next to this river today, it's one of those moments. I still have a ways to go. I haven't seen any other pilgrims. I'm going a little farther today in the afternoon. So, yeah, one step at a time. Last night in the albergue, I was talking with the other pilgrims, and in reviewing the walk so far, there's been a great sense of simplicity in the Camino. Pretty much my life out here has been eating, sleeping, walking, and talking, and writing letters home, and reading some. With that simplicity, I'm feeling very relaxed and focused. Fog's rolling in now, and I'm almost there for the day. And then I have one more to go until Finisterre. Today is day number 40, and yesterday, day 39, I saw the ocean for the first time 20 kilometers out, 12 miles away. Another pilgrim was there, and he told me that it's more impressive than Santiago. I said, it's so quiet. And as two pilgrims who had walked the whole way, that's all we needed to say, and we just enjoyed the view of the ocean. Today is my last day walking. I made it to Finisterre, and next to me is the 0 kilometer marker. On my bag, I have tick marks for each day. On the way here, while walking out, I came across the bus station, and in the bus window, as it was leaving, I saw Seichi, my best Camino friend from Japan, and we had a long wave and goodbye to each other. So I thought that was a very appropriate way for me to make it here. So now I'm going to take some time and look around and see if I could find a good spot and to release my brother's ashes. So I'll be doing that today, and also enjoying the sights and enjoying the fact that I could only walk 3 kilometers today and rest.
When I think I've had enough.
All right, it's the end of day 40, and after the lighthouse this morning, I went searching for a place and ended up here at this beach. I originally wanted to do the lighthouse, but when I was looking at it, the ashes wouldn't have made it into the ocean since the cliffs were so steep and they went out far. Also, there's a lot of tourists by the lighthouse. And I was feeling a bit rushed since the forecast was only showing that today would be a sunny day. So I didn't know what to do for a while. I ended up talking to one of the locals here, and she recommended this beach. When I was walking out here and I first saw the beach and how quiet I was, I said to myself, this is it. This is the place. Santiago was the place where it was like a summary of all the great, wonderful, grand moments I had on the Camino. And coming out here to this beach today, it's like the summary of all the quiet moments I had on the Camino. In those quiet moments, while walking 890 kilometers, over 500 miles, I realized the direction to take for my life. In those quiet moments, I found gratitude for everyone in my life. I found the words to say in my letters during those quiet moments. And most of all, while I was out here, in the quiet moments, I felt close to my brother. And I felt the harmony in nature, and like the harmony that we had in our relationship. And the memories of him in the quiet moments were just so strong. And I even had moments where, while walking alone for hours, I felt like he was walking beside me. And being here on that beach at Finisterre, the end of the world, my brother singing about oceans swallow me whole, this is a place where I'm going to do it. I will always love him. I will always miss him. He will always be my brother. I'm here to say goodbye, and in the same way, I'm also here to come all the way out here and say hello. So I made a stupid mistake and I came all the way out here about an hour ago, and I was picking up seashells to take home to my family, and I was going to put them back in my bag, and I realized I forgot my film equipment and the ashes, so I had a slight moment of panic. I ran back to my hotel, and the ashes are here. They made it all the way from home, and what a great moment. I'm ready to release them for my brother. So here's to James Timothy Frick, 1982 to 2013. He sang about ocean swallowing him whole, and that's what it's time to do. All right, this is it.
because such is our relationship, Jeremy. Musical.
Today is day number 42. It's my last day out on the Camino, and I leave home tomorrow. And there's one more thing that I want to say. I'm back here at the beach where I released the ashes. That one last thing I want to say is several years ago, I kept getting these mysterious keys in my mailbox back home. And usually these keys would come with a mysterious note that said, "Unlock the magic of Melrose Place," or "The magic awaits for you." And it was usually in a really nice box. And this went on for several months. I had no idea who was doing it. I thought I had a secret admirer or something. The day of Jimmy's funeral, his fiancée Julia approached me and said, "Jeremy, you know those keys that you've been getting in your mailbox? Well, that was Jimmy, and he has a whole bag full of them in his truck." So at his funeral, I was surprised that he could still manage to play a prank on me. So Julia gave me that bag of keys, and all along the way here, I've laid keys along the Camino. I took 7 keys, like my lucky shirt that my sister gave me, and I laid them along the way. I laid a key at the beginning in Zubiri. I put a key on the statue of Hemingway in Pamplona. I left one at a cross monument for people who died on the Camino. Close enough. I left one at the Iron Cross where I laid down his rock. I left one in a small church before Santiago. I left one on the doorsteps of the cathedral in Santiago. And this is key number 7. I'm going to lay this key at Jimmy's doorstep now. because I want him to know that even though he pranks me during his funeral, you don't mess with your big brother and think you could get away with it. So I'm here to lay this one down in the ocean. That's it. It's time to go home now. When I took my first international trip several years ago, Jimmy dropped me off at the airport, and he said, with a gleam in his eye and a smile, he said, "Germ, I had the feeling that this is the beginning of a lot of adventures you'll have." And this has certainly been quite the adventure. Along the way, I've been talking to a girl that I know. We've reconnected, and I'm feeling like there's many more adventures on my horizon, and I'm ready to go home now. Okay, I'm not ready to go home yet. There's one more thing. This is my walking stick that I bought in Pamplona the night I saw Hemingway's statue. And like the old man in the sea, my inspiration for coming out here, this stick helped me make it to the sea. But I can't take it home, it's too big. So I'll go ahead and leave it here, and maybe someone else could use it. All right, now it's time to go home.
Hi, my name is Jimmy. My name is Jeremy. And we're the Mermaid Brothers! I guess you told me we're gonna be on first name. Yeah! We're gonna get Hulk Hogan on Monday, you know? He better watch out! Yeah! We're coming! We're coming to get him! Smash you! Crush him! And bash him! You better watch out!
You and your songs.